we lived from my age of 4 to 12. And then when I was about 6 or 7, we saw in the Jewish Zeitung, we saw the ice capades being announced, and we were both big fans, my father and I. So we noticed that there was an announcement about a contest for the ice capades, a coloring contest. And so I talked my father into entering it. And so we got our little coloring sheets with the ice capades on it. And he colored his in with really pretty light pastel-y colors. And my drawing was fairly intense and bold and bright and very heavily marked, but I managed to get everything in the lines. And he said to me, "Simone, why are you doing it like this? Do it like me. Look how beautiful the light colors are, the gray and the pink and the light. But you do it dark and heavy. Why do you do it light and like I do?" Well, guess who won the contest? Me.
Yeah.
So we won the tickets, and then that was the beginning of the end of our close friendship as father and daughter. And we did go see the Ice Capades together at the Pan Pacific Auditorium. It was just so gorgeous, such a beautiful place, so Art Deco. And the performances were really spectacular, so it was quite a wonderful evening. For me, I think it was for him too. Anyway, at age 12, when we moved from Boyle Heights to Queen Anne Place, which was near LA High School, I graduated from Queen Anne Place School and then went to John Burroughs Junior High School. And I was in the art department. We had an art class, and as a class, we were invited to go to LACMA at its first location, which was at Exposition Park by the Natural History Museum. So we arrived, and there was the Vincent van Gogh retrospective, which was the first time it come to the States and Los Angeles. And when I saw the whole retrospective, it was like a religious experience for me. It was just so much of an eye-opener and a huge epiphany for me. And it was the first time that I realized I wanted to be an artist. Then I brought my parents to see it because I was so intensely moved by this exhibition. And they came with me, and they got pissed off at me for bringing them because they thought it was a big waste of time. So anyway, when I was 17, I went to LACMA at its new location on Wilshire Boulevard. And, first of all, I noticed in the LA Times that Ed Quinos was having his big retrospective at LACMA, but you had to have ID because they weren't allowing people to come in who were underage. And so I talked her into going with me. And we got there, and there was a big line in the rooms where the installations were, and I had to show my ID to the guard, but I was 17 and underage, so he wouldn't allow me to see the backseat Dodge. But I got to see the abortion room, which was really heavy and intense, and I had nightmares about it. But once again, seeing that whole spectacular, deep, intense installation, all of his works from that time period, was so amazing, and I had like another big epiphany thing, and it reinforced my idea of wanting to be a professional artist in the art world. So in 1969, I was living in Topanga with a much older man, and he introduced me to George Herms, Wallace Berman, Russell Tamlin, Dean Stockwell, and his girlfriend Tony Basil and Billy Gray. So it was really amazing. They all lived there, and they were making these incredible collages and assemblages. And so Wallace Berman was my first major mentor at that time period, and he was doing these beautiful assemblage pieces with Hebrew writing, Hebrew letters. And it was very touching to me because my parents were Holocaust survivors. solo show at a church, and they were very encouraging to me to start exhibiting my work. I was making fabric art pieces. They weren't even collages then, but they were hand-sewn pieces, big wall pieces, and with satin and velvet and beadwork and embroidery, all hand-sewn. And it was really hurting my eyes and my hands. I was getting bad carpal tunnel, so it was very hard for me to work. And I was getting a lot of commissions at that time and doing a lot of projects for some rock stars and like Chick Corea and Elton John and Dobie Gray. And I worked for a store called Bazaar CM, and I did designing for them as well, my applique pieces on their clothes, so it was a collaboration. And they had a lot of movie stars and rock stars come into the store to buy the stuff. It was called Bazaar CM. So in 1972, I met my last mentor, Al Hansen, who's a Fluxus artist, and he wasn't well known at that time. He was really struggling, and he was staying at my friend Bibby's house. He was the father of Bibby and the grandfather of Beck and Channing, who were little boys then, and Channing had been born next door to me on Ocean View Avenue when we all lived on the same block together. So this was a few years later, and I would watch Al make these incredible, his Venus collages with Hershey bar packages that he would cut up to as part of the Venuses, and then he'd use cigarette butts as well. And they're worth a lot of money right these days. And then he moved to Cologne, Germany. But before he moved back to Germany, he encouraged me to start making assemblage and collage and to move away from the fabric pieces because he could see how damaging it was to my eyesight and my hands and how much in pain I was. So anyway, so I took that with me, and then I was going in that direction anyway because I was studying on my own as a self-taught artist, very intrigued by assemblage and collage and early pop works. And he sent me the slides back with a note saying, well, please come to the factory. So I was in New York at that time, and I looked in the yellow pages and saw the factory listed. And so I called, and I dialed the factory, and someone answered the phone, and I said, hello, is Andy Warhol there? Speaking. He was just so nice, like so understanding, like, talking to like a regular person. And he was just really sweet to me. And he invited me to come